Yeah.
Welcome.
Start when you're ready.
Okay. Welcome again to the Gymrat Pack Does Entertainment with me, LarryOlubamiwo, and
Damon Ashley.
Mr. El Rock.
and we're here to give you our perspective as actors and gymrats on the entertainment industry, specifically movies and TV. We have a few topics that we want to discuss with y'all today. And the first one being, we're a bit late to the party. We obviously want to talk about the death of iconic. And that word gets used a lot unnecessarily.
Yeah, it's thrown around way too much.
Yeah, way too much. But in this instance, it is very applicable. Sidney Poitier has died, obviously, at the age of 94, was it? Yes, 94. A juggernaut of cinema and just a trailblazer for black actors.
Legend.
Yeah, just the man, Let me just read a little bit from Variety, which has an article on this. And it goes, Sidney Poitier, whose dignity and self-assertion ushered in a new era in a depiction of African Americans in Hollywood films as the civil rights movement was remaking America, has died. A spokesperson for the Bahamian Prime Minister confirmed to Variety. He was 94. Poitier was the oldest living winner of the Best Actor Oscar. Just one distinction in a career full of distinctions. Talks about how the whole of Bahamas are grieving for him. Don't want to get into that. Poitier was Oscar nominated as Best Actor for the 1958 film The Defiant Ones, a first for a non-white performer in that category. A precursor of the biracial buddy film, The Defiant Ones, offered a powerful look at racism, teaming Poitier with Tony Curtis as escaped convicts handcuffed together. I've seen that. It's a really good film. In 1964, the year that Martin Luther King won the Nobel Prize and Congress passed the Civil Rights Act, Poitier won Best Actor for the 1963 film Lilies of the Field, marking another first. Lilies was a small film that became a big hit in which Poitier plays a handyman who helps to build a chapel for German-speaking nuns. It would take 38 years before another black actor won in that category. For the better part of his 5-decade career, Poitier was a movie star, the first black Hollywood superstar. Handsome, intelligent, confident, even noble, Poitier could also fume with barely suppressed rage. But Poitier's disciplined restraint provoked his more militant critics as his career grew. In 1967, Poitier starred in 3 major hit films. In the Heat of the Night, that's that famous scene that we'll go into in a bit, which won Best Picture, To Sir With Love, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. That's another one.
That still happens today.
Bro.
Guess who's coming to dinner still happens today.
Also nominated for Best Picture. He became the top box office star that year for a black man in the 60s. That's some going.
Obviously unheard of because it was just him.
Yeah, exactly.
Just show you.
The actor's angry side emerged sharply in The Heat of the Night, one of his finest roles. He played Virgil Tibbs, a Philadelphia homicide detective accused of murder in a small Mississippi town, who teams with the local sheriff to solve the crime. In a signature moment, Tibbs is slapped by a rich white man, and he slaps him right back. Another occurs when the skeptical racist white sheriff, Rod Steiger, who played really well in that as well, asks him what they call him in Philadelphia. He responds sternly, "They call me Mr. Tibbs."
There you go.
That line became the title of a tepid 1970 sequel. Poitier made a third and final appearance as Tibbs in 1971's Better Received, The Organization. Before filming In the Heat of the Night, I need to read all of this because he's such an iconic guy. The actor told director Norman Jewison he wouldn't work below the Mason-Dixon line. As America's most recognizable black actor in the 1960s, Poitier sometimes feared for his life and safety of his family. His first wife, Juanita, was menaced by racists who burned a cross on their lawn. That's the times they were living in, man. In To Sir With Love, Poitier played a schoolteacher who connects with difficult British teenagers. He took a small upfront fee and a percentage of the gross, and the film made Poitier a rich man. But critics execrated him for his role in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. He was called a stipend fetcher in a grey flannel suit, and far worse for what they saw as yet another reassuring and accommodating role as an ideal black man. Poitier plays a doctor famed for his work developing health programs in Africa, who has come to ask for the hand of Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn's daughter. Nothing about Guess Who's Coming to Dinner implies subtlety. Aram Goudsouzian wrote in his largely unsympathetic 2004 biography, Sidney Poitier, Man, Actor, Icon. It paints characters, settings, and issues in broad, colourful strokes. Critics were not enthused, but audiences were. The film became the biggest box office success in Colombia's history. Wow. Let me just read more of this. With these successes, many wanted to use Poitier as a figurehead in the fight against racism, hoping he and his characters would express more of the late 1960s fury against racist bigotry. However, these critics and opportunists, sometimes they were the same, failed to acknowledge that Poitier had been a racial activist for decades, chipping away at America's continuing proclivity for black stereotypes and cliches. Right, this is going on too long, so I won't read the rest because I could have gone on and on and on and on and on and on. You know, it's one thing to talk about Sidney Poitier as a man who was a trailblazer for black actors, but I think, Damien, you would agree that in a way he was a trailblazer for any actor.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of their color.
Yeah.
He
There was a stoicism about him on screen that, and John Campion, I think he put this really well actually, the way he framed it, where he said that when you've got a certain actor on screen that takes over with their energy and it goes to a point where you think they're going to play it up, but he had the right level where he had that charisma and that energy that it just felt like an emboldened individual. And it was someone that carried across the energy through to the screen that literally grabbed you.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what he did. I mean, I've got a bit of a bad thing to own up to. The first thing I ever saw Sidney Poitier in was The Jackal, with obviously Bruce Willis and Richard Gere. And I've only ever seen clips of In the Heat of the Night, and I've only ever seen clips of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Because I am very, very lazy when it comes to going back and looking at films past when I was born. In fact, I very, very rarely do. But I have seen the iconic scene when he slaps the officer about probably 50 or 60 times. I've watched a speech where Denzel got his Oscar back in, was it 2001, 2002 Training Day? And Sidney Poitier is up in the booth above him, and he puts the Oscar up to him. He says, like, I'm still walking in your footsteps. You know, and that shows you the caliber of actor that he was. And funny in saying, like, the kind of icon that he is and what he stood for. He goes to almost the same point as Desmond Tutu, which I think is almost a beautiful concept. They've gone together because when you think what they both stood for.
Very similar ages as well.
Very similar ages, both in the 90s. And I just, in what you said earlier, he stood for so much more than just being a black actor. So much more than that. And I think whenever you look back at film, you can't not have his face attached to whatever they talk about in the history of film. You can't. And you think about that, the amount of years between when he went, it took 64 for him to win an Oscar. So that was like what? The Academy started in 20s? When did the Academy start? 20s, 30s?
Yeah, 20s.
So it took 40 years for someone not white to win an Oscar.
Mm.
And then it took another 30 plus years for the next person, which funny enough, Halle Berry won for
Monsters
Born the same night. And and then he got an honorary Oscar that night as well.
Oh, okay.
Because it was Denzel, Sidney, and Halle all that night won Oscars. But he got the honorary Oscar. I think it's definitely a big loss for cinema. It's a big loss for just not just the entertainment, but again, it's a cultural loss in a lot of ways. Because of what he stood for. Yeah. But
yeah. Leon, I know that Sidney Poitier meant a lot to you because he was he embodied the kind of roles that you want to see more black actors tackle. Not the step and fetch it kind of roles, but the strong, emboldened.
Well, this is it.
Which he played just superbly.
Yeah.
What does Sidney Poitier mean to you, and what do you take from his career?
Well, first of all, he had to do the work that we all wouldn't want to do. That's a very good. He never got to be a hero as such. He was a hero to us, if you know what I mean. But he had to. He was the entry point. So he had to do some of them roles, them real thought-provoking, heartache. You know, those
heavy.
He had to do everything he done was heavy. He didn't get to do light and fluffy. Everything was heavy. Everything was meaningful, and it was part of a movement.
Well, you heard in the article when he said, "I was afraid Mason Line-Dixon." That he was afraid for his life. Imagine you're afraid for your life because you're doing your job.
Yeah, but they was black people was afraid for their life anyway. So you put yourself out there in a recognizable face. Just like anything, you're gonna be more in danger. Yeah. But so he did the. I hate to say donkey work, but he did what had to be done at the time. And I feel like the only person that's matched his on-screen presence is Denzel. Yeah. I feel like Denzel, when you look back, like he took a lot from Sidney. Yeah. Like just like you think about Cry Freedom and just Denzel's presence.
Well, we had a conversation about that the other night on the phone, didn't we? About which I'll mention.
Yeah. So, but he was like a gentleman, and you didn't get to see that. And like when he said, "What's your name?" Like, if you show someone of this generation, "What's your name?" and he says, "Mr. Tibbs." That means nothing. Yeah. But back then, your name's Boy.
Yeah.
Your name's N-word or your name's Boy.
And boys being nice to you.
Yeah, Boy.
Your name's not even a name. It's just slap in the face and don't speak to me.
That's it. Your name's Boy.
Because the scene that they were talking about in the heat of the night, obviously when
he's wearing the grey suit.
And then the guy smacks him, and straight away, without skipping a beat, he smacks he backhands the guy back, slaps him. And it's the way he did it. He didn't put a lot of effort. It's just like you don't even wish.
His torso doesn't move.
Do you know what I mean?
The hand comes up
and it was just like, and the guy's like, "Days gone by, I would have had you shot for this."
Yeah.
And he just looked at him.
Those days are done. Yeah. But and even the sound effects back in the day, it was like like it's not like today. It was a bit extra in it, not like a kung fu film. Yeah. So it just touched more, and things like that was unheard of. So even for example, Mr. T changed his name to Mr. T so people would call him Mr. That was his whole philosophy. That was his whole thing, because we weren't recognised as people.
And we weren't respected.
Mr. Who?
Yeah, I mean,
I tell it, boy.
That's your name is. And that's if they're being nice to you. As you said, N-word was more like what they're going to call you. You know what I mean?
So, but what I'm saying, but the point I'm making is that even the generation today don't realise that it's things like that, just changing from Boy to Mr. Tibbs is my name. And then you think, going back to school, there wasn't many black teachers when I went to school, primary school.
Mm.
So back then there was even less.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously it chimed with me because it was East End.
Yeah.
Like it was London. It was just the kids from the estate.
Yeah.
Which was us.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh mate, you know,
it's
just
I had like one black child in the entire school in my upper, and didn't know one black member of staff. The closest we had was an Indian teacher.
Yeah.
That was it.
So, but the bridge, yeah. So for me, yeah, it's a huge loss. It's a huge loss because he just meant a lot to many people.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
I think it's very telling that you said that there's only Denzel that has really stepped up to the plate in terms of following in his trajectory, but he was Denzel was his protege.
Yeah.
He, in fact, the conversation remember we had on the phone was about when Denzel, and I think you've seen the interview himself when he was pitched the N-word the N-word they couldn't kill.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And you know he was broke. Denzel was broke at the time. He just came out of drama school, didn't have no money. They've offered him $500,000, which back then was, I mean, even that today is a lot of money. But back then, that's a fortune, man.
Back then, that's life changing. That's if I never act again,
I'm good.
I'm all right.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? In the 80s, and you know, obviously, I'm not going to go into what they pitched in, but it was disgusting. And he told him where to go, but then he went to Sidney Poitier because he thought maybe he'd made a mistake, and then Sidney Poitier told him, "Look, the first few roles that you take in your career is going to take the trajectory of your career."
Well, look what you did to Jamie Foxx when Jamie Foxx was like partying and stuff when he got the Oscar nomination for Ray. He was the one that rocked up, was like, you need to straighten yourself out and behave yourself.
Who said that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Jamie
Sidney
Foxx.
Poitier. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he got the telling off. Not telling off, but he got like the stern talking.
Yeah.
You represent yourself.
And who's he? Was it? It's Sidney Poitier. You're gonna go, yeah, okay.
Okay. So
You're not even gonna question
You're
it.
not even gonna pause. Be like,
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, he's like, okay.
You're not gonna do a Samuel. Because this asshole.
You're just gonna shut your mouth and go, yes, sir.
Yes,
You
sir.
know what I mean? So yeah, man. I mean, it's you know, I think in his behavior in Hollywood, he tried to portray. He tried to set a good example.
Yeah.
You never really heard any scandals when it came to him.
No.
And in his behavior and his demeanor, he tried to as much as possible project what he would like to see in every black person.
And show people that we weren't pimps. And street people.
And this is so when in that article when people took umbrage with the fact that he was playing roles where he's this idealistic black man. No, there were plenty of black people like that.
Yeah.
Your media just fed you the gang and this and that, the stereotypical view of the black man.
Because you know, especially in them times, there was a massive sense of community. That more black people were married with children and in secure families, even though they never had anything, they had a structure.
Yeah,
that's when the family structure was its strongest.
Yeah,
I think it was the 60s, 70s, even a bit of the 50s or whatever. But that's when it was the strongest. So it was less fragmented like it is now. So now, obviously, it's all over the place. But back then, and that's what he was trying to show. You know, anyone that did come over, even here, like from the Caribbean, they worked hard. It was in the house. It by the book. Everything was by the book. It's only like the second and third generation that it started going a bit wayward. You know.
But I think he wasn't afraid to touch on a lot of different issues, including the taboo one at that time. I mean, to white people, it was taboo anyway. Interracial dating with that guess who. I've watched that film so many times, and to have Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy play those roles as well, I thought was just genius. Because you know they're Hollywood stalwarts themselves. You know what I mean? And for them to play, because I don't think they were that kind of minded, but for them to play it, and they played it really well as well. It just completed the whole project and what they were looking to do. Listen, I've got a whole heap of respect for this guy. And thank you, Sidney Poitier, for you know, not only setting the trail for black actors, including myself and Leon, but also for other actors like Damien, who look at your strength, your power in stillness and in dignity, and want to replicate that. So salute. Big up, Sidney Poitier.
Thank you for Denzel, because without Denzel, I wouldn't have had so many great films growing up.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Without Sidney, I don't think we would have had Denzel.
No, I don't think we would. I don't think, because he was literally his protege. He was Sidney Poitier's protege, and who better to learn from, you know? The death of Sidney Poitier. What do you guys all think about it? Are you going to be celebrating his life, and what lessons have you learned from his life and his career? Please leave some comments down below and let us know what you think.